There's been a lot of talk on social media, even with locals, about racism and things like that. And I need to kind of give my experience because I think it's a little bit different from. Uh, I haven't heard stories very similar to mine, so I think it can kind of give another perspective to it. A little background with me, uh, and I can verify. People talk about that racism is taught. That's the truth. It definitely gives you perspective. Um, See, if you're a black person, you receive uh, you get a lot of racism, but you don't get a lot of the sort of dialogue, the culture around it, because they're afraid to sort of just be unhinged. What you will get, obviously, is the actual actions, but you don't really get the whole sort of soup, so to speak, what they talk about and all that. And it really, when you realize that it's taught, it's really disgusting to think about that there's people with young children that are sort of marinating them in this racist mindset, saying those words around them. Probably would overhear their children say those words and be fine with it. I can't I can't imagine. You know, I not overly proud of what kind of person my father was, but certainly my mother didn't. Um, uh, she deserves the most credit easily as far as my parents go, but he would be the questionable one of the two. And even he didn't teach us that. Now, he was a bit of a know it all. He would show some bits of prejudice and things like that, no racial terms, no, stereotypes or anything like that. So you really have to be brought up in it. And he was kind of raised in most of it in like West Tennessee, around what they would call the Delta, a lot of Lauderdale County and stuff like that. And one kind of neat thing about West Tennessee, or at least back then, it's been a long time since I've been there, is you're kind of all thrown in there together. I know it's kind of a weird way of putting it. I don't know a better way of putting it. Um, you see farmers of all different complexions, people dressed all kinds of different ways, and skin color's got nothing to do with it. But like I said, you do have to get sort of raised up in it, and I was raised up around it. There was one school that I went to as a kid. They had to reintegrate it multiple times because it was so lopsided, black to white. I mean, you can find me in the pictures pretty quick. Um, as a matter of fact, I went to school with the guy that's the uh, mayor of Jackson right now. Um, Briefly, it gives you an interesting perspective. You grow up in that, and of course, they're going to be big on talking about Black history and stuff like that. So you hear about Malcolm X and Martin Luther King and about the slavery and stuff like that. But you, as a person, has not been taught racism really. It kind of becomes unfathomable. So even though you're not a racist, it sort of does kind of handicap you in a way. I give you an idea of what I mean. You're raised up around these people, and it's all everybody's just who they are, and that's all there is to it. And you're looking back in history and like, boy, it was sure bad back then. And you consider yourself to be all equals, you know. So you get a little older. I remember I went to Middle Tennessee, moved to Middle Tennessee, And I'm not speaking for all of it, but a lot of Middle Tennessee, if you want the most racist places in Tennessee, it's not the east or the west, it's the middle, the southern part of the middle. Just ridiculous. So here I was, went to school, went around mostly black people, and I come over there to Middle Tennessee, and there's people throwing out the N-word, and it's just shocking. And of course, you don't want to hear it. You didn't even really know it existed. It's almost traumatizing. And you start doing that, and you become sort of non-white. You know, you get basketballs thrown at your head in the playground. You get people doing stuff to your car. You get called all sorts of names yourself. And of course, a lot of them, while doing all that, will deny that they're racist. It's a saying that I use a whole lot that is true of a lot of things these days. There's shame in the name, but no shame in the game. So they don't mind being something, just don't call them that. But, you know, even then, when I'm seeing that, I'm like, wow, some of this still exists, I guess. You know, getting a little older, and as a little kid, I loved cops. You know, I really respected the DARE officers and all that. I was part of the generation that went through that. And I had this respect for it. Watch all the cop shows. I always saw them as the good guys. And you get a little older, and you see cops as being ineffective because you'll need their help, you need their assistance, or you'll see something that needs their attention, and they won't do anything. They're completely ineffective. Sit there and make excuses why they can't do anything, and they can't help you at all in any kind of way. Bothered by your presence. Just seem like lazy clowns wearing uniforms. That was my experience at the time. So when I start hearing the stories of, you know, black people having trouble with police, you got to understand, you're coming from a mindset where you can't really completely fathom that there would be, or you're seeing some racist people, so there's that. But you still can't get the idea that it's somewhat like it was as far as institutionalized racism, that there's people in positions of power, there's a system of racism. So seeing cops as being completely useless and ineffective, and okay, 1 second. Anyway, seeing police as being just completely ineffective, and then seeing people complaining about being harassed by them, your mindset ends up being, well, they must be doing something. If cops are that lazy and ineffective, and these people are getting attention from them, they must be doing something. Of course, you hear the term race card. And that just ends up, it's funny, it's effectively a racist thought. But the reason you have it is because you're completely not racist. And you kind of understand where, you know, some black activists and speakers, they mention this sort of racist mindset that's just kind of inset into your head. And again, I'm not calling myself racist. I never have been. But there's a tone deafness. You know, there's a blind spot. And as I've gotten older, of course, I understand that, and I can get around it. I completely understand now. But that was my mindset at the time, that there must be something going on here, you know. And I took a lot of claims of, you know, black people talking about racism with a grain of salt. I didn't necessarily disbelieve it, but I took it with a grain of salt. You know, it's a great thing to cop out, you know, using. And I feel bad about that now, and I know better now, but I didn't at the time. And it was purely constructed from not being able to completely fathom racism. It's kind of funny. It's like a circle. You go full circle on that. Um, so it always helps to educate yourself. You can't just be like, well, I'm not a racist, so I don't. You got to educate yourself. You got to listen to people. And I've been doing that more and more. You never stop learning. You know, as times have gone on, I've dealt with police more. I have a funny story, and I'm just going to go long anyway, so I'll try to keep this short. I've been pulled over for being black. Now, that's the way I lead that story because it makes it sound funny, but here's what happened. I'm not going to say where or mention names or anything like that, but I got pulled over one time. It's in a relationship at the time. So me and her, we got pulled over. And it was some sort of bogus thing about a taillight. Well, they claimed that the police claimed that I had driven in a circle to get where I was. You know, make a note of that. I had driven in a circle to get where I was. Well, I knew it wasn't. It's pretty well a straight line. A little bit of a bypass, but it's pretty much a straight line. So that was in my head. Like, what? How's that a circle? And they said I went through a high crime area. Well, part of the area I went through, a state trooper actually lived there. You could see his car parked out front. So that was another part of it that was strange. So they brought out their alleged drug dog, walked it around the car, even had it scratch up the car a little bit. It was some Labrador puppy, clearly not a real drug dog. I'd watched enough of that, as I said, as a kid. I watched all these cop shows, still watch quite a few of them. It didn't signal, but they claim it did. Had me and her step out of the car, keep our hands where they can see them. And then they started doing good cop, bad cop, trying to get us to tell them where the drugs were. Well, obviously, they brought another guy in to search the car. He found nothing, of course, because there was nothing there. Then they started making claims that, well, somebody with drug residue on their hands may have touched the car within 24 hours. That didn't happen. Which, you know, even that kind of links to what I believe really happened. Well, there was another car, you know, my mother had pointed out that maybe they thought I was someone else. Well, there's another car that looked almost exactly like mine at the time. And the reason we knew about it is because it was parked at the house right next door to where my mother lived at the time. And that would have been a circle coming from there, and there could have been some day that I did drive from there. But if they thought they were coming from there, and as I said, that would have been a circle, that would have been an odd way to go. Guess who lived at that house? It's not somebody of this complexion. So by the route that they said that I had to have come from, it would have had to have been that car. And that's not the first time that happened in that area. I got pulled over for doing, I think, 65 and a 55. I was never in the 55 zone. I could show you the exact route. So that was a complete lie. And ironically, I was taking her back home at the time and got pulled over right before her road. And I always kind of joke about it. The cop shined the flashlight. It was at nighttime. He shined the flashlight into the car, and you could see it slightly blinded him because my skin is almost reflective. And so that's twice in the same area. Didn't realize it was me that was in there. And even when they saw that it was, well, they figured that I was in cahoots with them. So clearly that was the case. So, you know, how awful would it have been if I'd been through something like that and not learned from it? And you got now, you know, I probably should have sort of coordinated what this video was going to be. It's going to be a little disorganized even for me. But you look at the racism that's going on now, and it is racism. The thing with ICE, that's complete racism. The claims of illegal immigration, and I'm sure there are of all different colors, And it's mainly because the path to citizenship is ridiculous. Getting into this country, it's ridiculous. You know, years back, I looked at the one getting into Canada. Not for the reasons that you think. I was just trying to keep my options open. I was looking anywhere close, just going to try something different, seeing where life led me. And it was a little ridiculous getting there, at least for a poor person. Doesn't have a lot of education. Well, this illegal immigration thing gives these weirdos, these thugs, and that's what they are. They're the worst of society. It's people who want to, and a lot of times they join a police force to do this, but if they can't make it, they got to do something else. It's people who want to do this to people anyway. They want to brutalize women, they want to attack men, and especially if they're a race they don't like. And this gives them the ability to do it. And lets them be completely prejudiced. Because you can't look at somebody and tell they're illegal or not. So that gives them carte blanche to go after any Hispanic person, anybody that looks Hispanic. And then you got the Somalian thing. I think you see where this is going. Well, this gives them the opportunity to go after any black person. And you can already see the the liberal non-fix-it thing coming up. You know what that's going to be? They're not doing this to white people. So that's what's going to happen. They're just going to start doing it to everybody. And the lack of due process means that you don't really have the right to prove yourself innocent. You could be going to work, you could be going to a job interview, they grab you and they ruin that for you. You're out of work. You miss the interview. So they've disrupted your life, and that's if they don't keep you even longer. It's just an opportunity to bully people. And they got this facial recognition. They got this online thing where they could really target you, for sure. It doesn't look like it's targeted, but it's targeted. That's what's going on. The whole thing about ICE to begin with is definitely a racism thing, but there's more behind it. They want to do this to everybody. They want maximum control, and as bad as police have been, and as much as a lot of police have gotten away with, they can't be sure that they can count on police doing their corrupt nonsense. Maybe quite a bit of it, maybe some, but they can't be certain, because there are a few people that join the police forces to do something noble. I know back when I was interested, years and years and years ago, it's because I wanted to do good things. I wasn't interested in bullying people. As a matter of fact, I'm probably not aggressive enough until I really get mad, and that's a no-no with police work also. You're not supposed to be super emotional. I kind of miss it in both ways. I'm not aggressive enough to harass somebody over nothing, but if they've really done something, especially if they've done something bad, I'm going to be too aggressive. I've watched a lot of cop shows. They're interviewing serial killers and child predators and things like that, and just talking to them just like they're talking to Mr. Rogers, and that's not me. But as I said, people need to educate themselves. I'm sure I'm missing a lot of stuff I was wanting to talk about, but that gives you some perspective that even if you're raised to be non-racist, you're not taught racism. It's still, if you're not part of that particular race in question, it still gives you a blind spot, and you can still be tone deaf. And I'm sure I still am here and there. I'm better than I ever have been. But I'm sure there's still a blind spot. I'm sure there's stuff I'm still missing. And stuff I'm going to miss. That's just something I've got to work on. And I've got to be open to. You know, I watch a lot of channels. Revolutionary Blackout Network. That's a lot of great people involved in that. And there's plenty more, I'm sure. But I've learned a lot from them. It's there. If you're willing to learn, it's there. Just listen to people. I mean, you know, as a white person, you claim that you respect this or that coworker, and this or that person of color as your friend. Well, then listen to them. Why you treat them like they're a raving maniac when they start talking about racism? Isn't that weird? You love them so much, you respect them so much, they're equal to you, but when they start talking about their own experiences and their own views, it's like they're talking about unicorns. I mean, are they equal? I mean, it doesn't look like if you're dismissing what they're saying. You're dismissing their political fears. That's another thing. I think I'll do better by not voting for either one of the big two. But I've always found that strange. You got these people that vote for people like Trump, and the you know black people they work with have reservations, and they don't take that seriously. They laugh at them. That doesn't seem like respect to me. It seems an awful lot like disrespect. Like you might not hate them, but you see them as a little bit less than you. Their fears are childlike, not intelligent. I'd rather listen to people. If I respect them, I'm going to listen to them. I'm going to value their input as much as my own, if not more, in some situations. And you know, there's another thing. I'm getting kind of long in the tooth here on the time, but the word racism, it's been used, and I don't know what the proper definition is. It's been used different ways. You know, one way most common is it's one person of one race who has got issues with people of other races, and it's not distinct in that way. But there's another, not specific about race, the race of the racists themselves. But there's another version of it, and it might be what is more accurate, which is a system of racism. So in that way, it's a little goofy to call, say, a black person a racist, or a Mexican person a racist, Native American, because there's no system that backs it up. Matter of fact, it's very inconvenient. Now, things have gotten better in the past few years, but I'll give you an example of what I mean. They're not great, they're just a little bit better. If you're, say, what they would call, let's say, a black racist, okay? When you turn your TV on, most of the movies and TV shows are white dominated. That's the truth. Look at these dumb horror movies. 5 or 6 couples go somewhere and there's a slasher. It's like one black couple. And then a lot of times they get killed first. You know, or one black guy. And if there's a movie that's mostly black people, it can't just be a regular movie. It's got to start out with a thumping speaker sound. It's got to be a black movie. It can't just be a normal movie with mostly black people. Normal movie with mostly Hispanic people. Mostly Native American people. When it starts up, you're going to know who it mostly is. You don't hear fiddles and banjos every time there's a movie that's mostly white people. It's just whatever. It's sort of an indoctrination that white people are the norm. And they're just kind of anything goes. But everybody else is some kind of weird, pinpointed thing. I've always found that strange. You go to buy an item. You know, as I said, it's gotten a little bit better in the past few years, but box of cereal. You know, any kind of product. There's some smiling white person on the front of it most of the time. Buy clothes. What the models mostly look like. So if you're going to be a so-called black racist, it's going to be pretty difficult. You know, what's on most of the radio stations. As a matter of fact, I get a little irritated. I'm not even a big rap fan. And people start talking about Eminem being the GOAT. How are people not madder about this? People should be a lot madder about this. And that's something I've learned too is Uh, Black people have been way more patient than they should have been. You know, and I guess kind of part of my bloodline being Irish, Scotch Irish, it kind of rises up. We're not known for being patient with nonsense. It just amazes me how patient they've been, how accepting, and the empathy and that they've shown is just. And I didn't know this when I was younger. This only come to my attention recently, and well, within the past 10 years. The level of patience, race card my foot. And I'm sure that happens here and there, but the level of patience that they've shown with this nonsense that they're around every day, it's unfathomable. So again, you start talking about racism. If you're touching on to the system of it, you can't really talk about that it's equal. It's not. Never has been, but it's not even now. I mean, you look at, you got, the liberals are big on talking about racism and things like that, but they're so ridiculous about it. They never miss an opportunity to make some Civil War jokes because they feel like that pisses off the Southern white conservative. And the funny thing is, they're uplifting Native American killers, which is the Union, which is Abraham Lincoln. Again, it's that blind side, that blind spot, that tone deafness, because it's white people doing it generally. I'm sure there's some black people that have maybe get a little bit too focused on what's happened with them. They don't notice that things have happened to other people too. I guess that can happen. But that's mostly white liberals that do that. A lot of people would also look into what Lincoln really felt about people that weren't white. It wasn't good. We haven't had a lot of good presidents. Sadly, Lincoln is still pretty close to the top. And that's crazy. That just shows you how the level of filth that we've had. But my God, you have some people pitch the notion of, well, it can't be a racist country. We've had a black president. Even the first black president was half white. And the black side was outsourced. And that kind of bothered me. I mean, I guess I have less right to talk about it, but it's almost like we couldn't have a black person that was descended from the people who got wronged in this country. We had to bypass that. They still got cheated. And then the first black vice president is only half black, and she's Jamaican. Again, outsourced. It seems a little weird to me. It doesn't seem like a coincidence. And again, I can only say so much about it. I guess some progress is progress, but it doesn't seem right to me. It seems like a ripoff. And then you look at the way that they treat people of color too. Bad. Really bad. And a lot of people like to do that. You got Candace Owens saying good things now, but, Charlie Kirk was just... I remember I didn't listen to him too much until after what had happened. But what put me off is he would sit next to Candace. They were real tight at the time. And she'd be saying this horrendous stuff about black people. And he'd be over there he was just loving it. Lapping his tongue out of his mouth. Literally just making weird faces. Because it was stuff he wanted to say, but he needed to say it through her. It's hard to, she can be saying all this stuff now, but she's done some bad stuff that's unforgivable. And that's how, it's kind of how you can tell the racist conservatives, because they'll make sure to put up like the Hodge twins, or they don't do Candace Owens anymore, but they used to do Candace Owens a whole lot. People like that, because they wanted to launder their thoughts through them, let them be their mouthpiece. See, I'm not racist. Yeah, you've kind of exposed yourself on that. And shame on those people for being a part of it. I don't know how you get to that point. But anyway, this is jumbled up and I went way too long, but this is just some of my experience. And take it what you will. I'll probably do more videos and be a little bit more organized, hopefully. But that's it for now.